She said, "You're being paranoid. He's just my work husband." I replied, "You're right, I need to be more trusting." I then put my trust in a private investigator. She discovered what real work was when a thick envelope of photos was delivered to her work husband's actual wife.
Hi viewers, if you've seen my videos in your feed more than once, that's your sign. Hit subscribe and help the channel grow. I post every day.
I'm 38 years old. I own my home, run a small business, and I've always considered myself a pretty good judge of character. For the last 3 years I was with Chloe. She's 32, and when we first met, she was brilliant, smart, funny, ambitious, everything you'd want. We built a life together, or so I thought. She moved into my house about 18 months ago, and things were good, comfortable, stable. But about 6 months ago, things started to shift. It began with a name. Liam. He was a senior colleague at her company, and at first, the stories were harmless. Liam thought my presentation was great today. Liam and I totally saved the team on the quarterly numbers. I thought nothing of it. It's normal to have colleagues you get along with. But then the frequency of his name increased, and the context changed. It started with the texts. Her phone, which used to be left on the coffee table, was suddenly always in her hand, angled away from me. I'd see Liam's name pop up at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she'd give a little smile before texting back. Then came the late nights at the office. They went from once a month to once or twice a week. She'd come home smelling faintly of wine, not office coffee, and be buzzing with energy. "You would not believe the day we had," she'd say. Liam and I had to put out so many fires. The real shift was in her priorities. One Friday, I had tickets to a concert for an artist she loved. I'd bought them months in advance for her birthday. At 5 p.m., she called me. "Babe, I am so sorry, but we have a huge crisis with a major account. Liam and I have to work all night to get a new proposal ready for the morning. We just have to." I could hear traffic in the background, not an office. When I pointed that out, she got defensive. "I'm in an Uber, Mark, heading back to the office from a late meeting. Do you not trust me?" I ate the cost of the tickets. She came home after midnight, full of apologies but not much guilt. The final straw before the first and only confrontation was an inside joke. We were at a friend's barbecue, and she got a text. She laughed out loud, a genuine, hearty laugh. My friend's wife asked what was so funny. Chloe just waved her hand and said, "Oh, it's just a work thing, you wouldn't get it." It was the way she said it, like she and this other person existed in a special world that I wasn't a part of. I decided to talk to her that night. I wasn't aggressive. I just laid out the facts. I told her the constant texting, the late nights, and the inside jokes were making me uncomfortable. I said it felt like she was prioritizing her relationship with this colleague over ours. I was calm and direct. She looked at me with an expression that was a perfect blend of pity and annoyance. She sighed, as if explaining a complex topic to a simple child. "Mark, you're being paranoid," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "He's just my work husband. Every woman has one. It's not serious. It's just someone you're close to at the office. It helps us get through the day." I stared at her. "Work husband?" I repeated the term, tasting how much I hated it. "I'm your partner, the person you're building a life with. You don't need a work husband." She rolled her eyes. "See? This is what I mean. You're insecure about it. It's just a silly name. You need to trust me more." And in that moment, something inside me went cold and quiet. The hurt was there, but it was being rapidly overtaken by a strange, chilling clarity. I realized that arguing was pointless. She had her narrative, and I was the insecure, paranoid boyfriend. Any further attempts to discuss it would just reinforce that role. I would be the bad guy. So, I switched tactics. I took a breath and changed my expression to one of acceptance. I even managed a small, apologetic smile. "You know what? You're right," I said, my voice even. "I'm sorry. I'm letting my head get the better of me. I need to be more trusting." The relief on her face was immediate. She smiled, genuinely this time. "Thank you, babe," she said, coming over to kiss me. "I knew you'd understand. There's nothing to worry about, I promise." I promised her I would relax about it. We went to bed and she fell asleep quickly, content that she had successfully managed my silly emotions. I lay awake for hours, not in anger, but in planning mode. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I was on my computer. I wasn't looking for relationship advice. I was searching for the top-rated private investigation firms in our city. I found one with stellar reviews and a background in handling delicate marital and partner investigations. I sent them a discreet inquiry through their encrypted web portal. By lunchtime, I had a response. I arranged a phone consultation for that afternoon, taking the call in my truck between job sites. I spoke to a woman named Sarah, the owner of the agency. Her voice was professional and no nonsense. I explained the situation simply. I told her about the work husband, the late nights, the suspicious behavior, and my girlfriend's complete dismissal of my concerns. I told her I wasn't interested in speculation. I needed facts. I needed irrefutable proof, one way or the other. I wanted to know if they were just having long dinners or if it was a full-blown affair. "And what do you intend to do with the information?" she asked. It was a standard question to gauge the client's stability. "If they're just friends, I'll apologize to my girlfriend and live with the fact that I was wrong," I said honestly. "But if they're not, I just need the truth to make a clean break. I need evidence that can't be argued with or gaslit away." She seemed satisfied with my answer. We discussed rates, and I paid a hefty retainer with my business credit card, not our shared household account. I gave her all the details: Chloe's name, her photo, her work address, her car information. I gave her Liam's full name, which I'd seen on a company email she'd left open once. I told her they often worked late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The PI, Sarah, told me they would start surveillance the next day. As I hung up the phone, I didn't feel sad or angry. I felt like I had finally taken back control of the situation. Chloe had asked for my trust, and I was giving it to a licensed professional who would find the truth. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since I hired the private investigator. The time has been educational. The moment Chloe believed I had accepted the work husband story, it was like a permission slip had been signed. Her behavior became more blatant. The late nights became more frequent. The texting was constant, and she didn't even bother to hide the little smiles anymore. It was like she was rubbing my nose in it, confident I had been put back in my box. Living with her during this period was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I had to maintain a mask of normalcy. I'd ask about her day, and she would launch into long, detailed stories about her and Liam, the dynamic duo, conquering the corporate world. "Liam and I just killed it in the strategy meeting today. We were finishing each other's sentences," she'd boast. I would just nod and smile, saying things like, "That's great, hon," while my stomach tied itself in knots. I was playing a part, and the standing ovation at the end was going to be my freedom. Last Friday, I got the first official update from Sarah, the PI. She sent a password-protected email with a preliminary report and a few photos. My heart was pounding as I opened it in my home office. The door locked. The report was professional and detached, just a log of times, dates, and locations. On Tuesday, Chloe and Liam had left their office building at 5:30 p.m. But they didn't go their separate ways. They got into his car and drove to a high-end downtown bistro, not a place you go for a quick work meeting. The PI had a team member inside. They documented them ordering a bottle of expensive wine, sitting side by side in a booth, not across from each other. The photos were grainy, taken from a distance, but clear enough. I could see her hand on his thigh. I could see him lean in and whisper something in her ear that made her throw her head back and laugh. They stayed there for 3 hours before he drove her back to her car, which was still in the office parking garage. Thursday was even more damning. They again left work together, this time heading to a dimly lit cocktail lounge on the other side of town. The PI's notes mentioned they were extremely physically affectionate. The photos confirmed it. There was one shot of them in the corner of the bar, his arm wrapped tightly around her waist, her head on his shoulder. Another photo, time-stamped at 10:17 p.m., showed them sharing a long, passionate kiss just outside the entrance before getting into his car. The report also contained a crucial piece of information that Sarah had flagged. Liam wore a wedding ring. She had run his name through public databases. He was married, lived in a nice suburban neighborhood about 45 minutes from the city. Had 2 kids. So, Chloe wasn't just having an affair, she was the other woman. The one helping a man cheat on his wife and children. My paranoid concerns seemed quite understated now. Seeing the evidence didn't break me. It did the opposite. It hardened my resolve. The quiet, cold part of me took over completely. There was no more doubt, no more wondering if I was the crazy one. I was looking at the truth in black and white. I called Sarah. My voice was steady. "This is good," I told her. "This is a great start, but it's not enough." "What more do you need, Mark?" she asked. She could still spin this, I said, thinking out loud. She could say it was a drunken mistake, a moment of weakness. I need something that cannot be misinterpreted, something that proves this isn't just a flirtation. I need the nail in the coffin. There was a pause on the other end. "That kind of evidence can take more time and resources," Sarah said carefully. "I don't care about the cost," I replied. "Do what you need to do. I also need more information. I need to know everything about the wife, her name, her address, where she works, if she works. I need a complete picture." Sarah simply said, "Understood." That night, Chloe came home humming. She told me she and Liam had to work late again, but they'd had a major breakthrough on a project. She said her boss was probably going to give them both a bonus. She looked me right in the eye, a picture of innocence, and I felt nothing but a profound sense of pity for her. She had no idea she was living on borrowed time. Her entire world was a house of cards, and I was about to become the gust of wind that brought it all down. She thought she was playing me, but in reality, she was the only one who didn't know the rules of the new game. Update 2. It's been another 3 weeks. 3 more weeks of playing the part of the trusting, reformed boyfriend. It was exhausting, but every condescending pat on the arm from Chloe, every lie about her whereabouts, only fueled my determination. She had gotten so comfortable in her deceit that she stopped trying to be creative. Every Tuesday and Thursday was another fire at the office that only she and Liam could extinguish. I think she even started to believe her own stories. This morning, the final package arrived. Sarah, the PI, didn't email it. As per my instructions for the final report, it was delivered by a courier to my business address. It was a thick, heavy manila envelope with no return address, marked simply personal and confidential. I took it into my private office and closed the door. My hands were perfectly steady as I broke the seal. Inside was a detailed report and a stack of glossy, high-resolution 8x10 photographs. The quality was astounding. Sarah's team had done their job with chilling efficiency. The report detailed how Chloe and Liam had developed a pattern. Every Thursday, like clockwork, they would leave the office around 4 p.m. They would drive to a mid-range hotel, a place respectable enough not to look seedy, located conveniently off the highway between our city and the suburb where Liam lived. And then I looked at the photos. The first few showed them at the hotel check-in desk, him paying in cash, her looking around nervously. Then there were shots of them walking down the hallway, him holding the key card, her hand tucked into the back pocket of his jeans. They were smiling. They looked happy. The final photos were the ones I had asked for. The nail in the coffin. The PI team must have rented an adjacent room. The pictures were taken through the window of their room before they had the sense to draw the curtains completely. They were clear, undeniable, and left absolutely nothing to the imagination. They documented not just a kiss, but a full-blown affair, captured in stark, unforgiving detail. It was all there. Any lie, any excuse, any attempt to downplay what they were doing was rendered completely impossible by this stack of photos. I carefully placed the pictures back in the envelope. The report also contained the information I had requested about Liam's wife. Her name was Jennifer. She was a stay-at-home mom to their 2 young children, a boy and a girl. She was active in the local parent-teacher association. The PI had even included a link to her public social media profile. It was filled with pictures of her kids, posts about school bake sales, and happy-looking family photos with her husband. Liam. In one photo from just a few months ago, he had his arm around her, and the caption she wrote was, "So lucky to have this man by my side, my rock." It made me physically ill. Now, it was my turn to act. The plan had been forming in my mind for weeks, and I executed it with methodical calm. I went to a local office supply store, far from my usual neighborhood. I bought a standard 9x12 manila envelope, a book of stamps, and a pack of plain white paper. I went back to my office and selected the 6 most damning photographs. I didn't choose the most graphic ones. That felt needlessly cruel to the wife. I chose the ones that told the story. The hotel check-in, the passionate kiss in the parking garage, and a clear shot of them together inside the hotel room. The ones that showed clear intent and affection. I put the photos in the new envelope. I then typed a simple, anonymous note on the plain white paper. It read, "Jennifer, you don't know me, but I think you deserve to see what your husband does during his late nights at the office." The enclosed photos were taken this past Thursday. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. The photos spoke for themselves. I addressed the envelope to Jennifer at their home address, which the PI had confirmed. I drove to a post office in a completely different county, one I never frequent, and dropped the letter in a blue collection box. It was done. The fuse was lit. When I got home, I started the next phase. I spent the evening packing. I carefully emptied Chloe's drawers and her side of the closet. I boxed up her clothes, her shoes, her books, her makeup. I was careful not to damage anything. This wasn't about petty destruction. This was about a clean, surgical removal. I stacked the neatly labeled boxes in the spare bedroom and closed the door. For the next 2 days, I waited. I went to work. I ate dinner. I watched TV. Chloe went about her routine, completely oblivious. She was particularly cheerful, talking about her plans for the upcoming weekend. She had no idea that a bomb was ticking its way through the postal system, aimed directly at the heart of her secret life. The explosion came yesterday, on a Saturday afternoon. I was in the garage, cleaning my tools when my phone started vibrating non-stop. It was Chloe. I ignored the first call, then a second, a third, a fourth. Then the text started. A stream of pure panic. "Call me now. We need to talk. What did you do? Answer me. Mark, what did you do?" That last text told me everything I needed to know. The package had been delivered. The game was over. I didn't reply. I just sat there in the quiet of my garage, holding my phone, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of profound, liberating peace. The truth was finally out. Not just for me, but for everyone. Final update. It has been 4 months since I sent that envelope. The days immediately following what I now call the detonation were chaotic, but I handled it all from a distance, exactly as I'd planned. Chloe's frantic texts and calls continued for hours that Saturday. When she finally got home late that night, she found me sitting in the living room, calmly reading a book. The woman who walked through the door was someone I had never seen before. Her face was pale, blotchy from crying, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and rage. "What did you do?" she shrieked, her voice cracking. I bookmarked my page and set the book down. "I'm not sure what you mean, Chloe," I said, my voice level. "Don't play dumb with me, Mark. Jennifer knows. She knows everything. Liam just called me. His life is over. She got pictures. How did she get pictures?" I let the silence hang in the air for a moment before I answered. "I suppose someone must have sent them to her." Her eyes narrowed, and a dark realization dawned on her face. You did this. You had us followed." "I told you I needed to be more trusting," I said, standing up. "So I put my trust in a professional to find out what was really going on. Turns out my paranoia was justified after all. He wasn't just a work husband, was he?" She just stared at me, speechless. All the fight seemed to drain out of her, replaced by a look of utter defeat. "You've ruined my life," she whispered. "No, Chloe," I said, my voice cold and hard as steel. "You ruined your life. You and Liam did that when you decided to sneak around and lie. I just turned on the lights. Your belongings are in the spare bedroom. I want you out of my house by tomorrow evening." The argument that followed was pathetic. She cried, she pleaded, she threatened. She said she had nowhere to go. I suggested she call her work husband, but she admitted through sobs that he wasn't answering her calls. His wife had kicked him out, frozen their joint bank accounts, and he was blaming Chloe for the entire disaster. Their perfect little fantasy had crumbled the second it was exposed to the light of day. She eventually called her parents, and her father came the next day to pick her and her mountain of boxes up. He wouldn't even look at me. I didn't care. As I watched her drive away from my house for the last time, the only thing I felt was relief. The aftermath was about what you'd expect. I had my lawyer send her a formal notice stating that our cohabitation was terminated and that she was not to contact me again. I heard through a former mutual friend that the fallout at their company was massive. Jennifer, Liam's wife, had apparently raised a formal issue with his employer. An internal investigation was launched into his inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. He was fired for cause, violating company policy. Chloe, facing immense pressure and scrutiny, resigned a week later. As for their personal lives, it was a complete train wreck. Liam's divorce was, by all accounts, brutal. With photographic evidence of infidelity, Jennifer had all the leverage. She got the house, primary custody of the kids, and a significant portion of his assets. He was financially ruined. The last I heard, he was living in a cramped apartment and trying to find work in a new city where his reputation hadn't followed him. Chloe's life fared no better. Without her job and without Liam, who wanted nothing to do with her, she was forced to move back into her parents' house. Her attempts to paint herself as a victim fell flat. I had quietly told my side of the story, with evidence to back it up, to our closest mutual friends. Her lies had no room to grow. She lost her career, her affair partner, her home, and a significant amount of her dignity. She was left with nothing but the consequences of her choices. I've spent the last few months reclaiming my space and my peace. I changed the locks, even though I didn't have to. I rearranged the furniture. The house feels like mine again. It's quiet. The cold, strategic part of me that took over during that time has receded, but it taught me a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to stop talking and start acting. I never wanted revenge in the sense of causing pain for its own sake. I just wanted the truth to have its day. I delivered a package of facts to an address that deserved to know them. The fire that followed was one they built themselves, stick by stick, lie by lie. I just provided the match. And watching their world of deceit burn down from a safe distance has been, I admit, deeply and profoundly satisfying.